Rim, we don't seem to have Harris, at least the way we see it on the screen. But I'm the first speaker in the session to follow, so I'm always happy to get slowly started. And when Harris joins, we can have his intro.
Yeah, thank you, Pavel. I'm trying to get in touch with him. Perhaps he had some confusion with the time, but anyway. So let me introduce this session, and then I'll give back the sharing for him whenever he's connected. So this session it's about brain economy and brain positive cities. So I was expecting Harris to give an overview on the Global Brain Economy Initiative. But beyond this, what I would like to do to frame the discussion is brain economy has been an initiative that is really bridging neuroscience, economics, and policy, in which Harris, myself, Pavel, and other colleagues been working on since a few years now. And then it have cumulated into the Global Brain Economy Initiative, in which the World Economic Forum and the McKinsey Health Institute and other international collaborators have been really quite active into really developing this new paradigm, which is based on the advances of research on neuroscience and trying really to mainstream it into economic policy. So the process has been quite exciting, I would say, and we started in 2021 within the OECD. Also, we have colleagues from the OECD who have been quite intentional in rethinking the economic paradigms that we have nowadays. And the culmination point was the setup of the Global Brain Economy Initiative at the Davos 2026 this year. And the idea is really to bring this movement into a global setting and trying really to think our economic models toward economic resilience. So we have set up a nature medicine commission, and in fact, to help not only define but also measure and model and also act upon brain economy and brain capital. So we started actually all this work, and Harris is coordinating, and several of our colleagues, they are commissioners, including myself, who is leading the measurement track for the Global Brain capital index. So in fact, our idea is brain capital is its driver, is an asset that we need to protect, we need to invest in, and this will allow us to give brain health a very important place into the policy construction and brain economy. And today's session, this one is really to better understand what are those economic values that we will develop and what neuroscience is providing us in terms of knowledge that could be mainstream in economics within brain health. And what do we mean having a brain positive city? As we heard Kaisa, I think she gave us a very nice overview on what to do, but then how to do it and how to ensure that our cognitive functions are not impaired simply because of the territories where we are living. And this also create what I call inequalities. So it's not the same when you live in a stressful city, when you live in a peaceful city. And this is why what to do and how to ensure that these inequalities are reduced over time. So the session is organized in 45 minutes, so it's really quite interactive. I will take this role until Harris comes, and then I'll give it back to him. So we have 4 speakers, and each one of them will give 5 minutes introduction, and then we have the discussant, which will react and also add any experiences that could really allow, getting much more input and knowledge, so then we know what's going on in this field. So I'll start with Paweł Świeboda, who is the founder and director of NeuroCentury, and also the co-founder of the Brain Capital Alliance, and also member of the advisory board of EMEA. So please, Paweł, to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Rim. Greetings to everyone in Barcelona and online. I hope you can see the couple of slides that I would like to use. It's not a rivalry between Florence and Barcelona, but I thought brain positivity is for me so strongly anchored in culture and arts that's where my mind goes first when conceptualizing the brain economy agenda for cities. Kaisa gave a brilliant overview and presentation, and she already spoke about how the brain economy draws on the ingenious definition of brain health that the World Health Organization came up with only 4 years ago in 2022. Brain health is all about maximizing our individual potential, drawing on the different cognitive functions. And brain economy can be, in an analogous way, defined as a dynamic equilibrium that maximizes our collective human potential. It is a new generation economic security measure, and it contributes strongly to what we need to care about a lot, namely productivity growth. And we need to care about it because otherwise we won't have the resources to face and address all the challenges that we have. So I want to share one reflection with regard to the scope of this agenda of brain positive cities, and then also one idea to pursue. It is clear that brain capital is a 21st century tool for cities to gain greater competitiveness. And this is because the cognitive skills and knowledge spillovers translate into productivity growth. And it is explained by the fact that as technologies get more complex, one needs deeper division of knowledge and labor. And as we see on the graph, the more complex the technology, the higher concentration in cities. And this is also largely because of the knowledge which is embedded in social networks, and this doesn't really travel that well in spite of the digital channels which today exist. So my one reflection when it comes to the agenda of the brain economy and cities has to do with the fact that we need to look after both the cities where the agglomeration effect is strong. So these are the cities where high technologies dominate, but also those cities where there are less developed technologies or less complex technologies rather, and where in fact we observe a decline in agglomeration effects. So we need an answer to both, because the brain capital needs to have that type of aspiration to have a recipe for the different types of cities that we see globally. And it needs to also integrate other place-based development factors, such as the basic infrastructure. Basic infrastructure is often of foundational importance in anticipating the future growth of cities. And it is also part of the recipe to address the problem of cities which are left behind, on the places that no longer matter, as one of the important scholars in this field, Rodriguez Pose, has spoken about. When we look at life satisfaction in European cities over the past 10 years, we see an interesting trend, namely there is convergence. So cities that initially started with a lower level of life satisfaction advanced. Cities that were at the higher end have not moved that much further. But there is also an important challenge to speak about, namely the growth of within city inequality. This is probably one of the most important challenges to look after. Now, when I think of the brain capital and agenda and cities, What I find very important is that the brain capital agenda gives us an instrument to conceptualize about where the cities need to be in the future, because they are never on a premeditated trajectory, in a sense that the future is never cast in stone. And I'm sure many of us around the table have seen this inspiring paper by Farok and Jolly called Beyond Path Dependence. And what it argues is that conventional approaches, which look more at the structural factors, are good at explaining the lock-in, but they're not good at explaining escape velocity, namely why some cities manage to catch up and grow faster. And what they say is very much brain capital language to me, namely that the role of imagination, agency, and contested visions is extremely strong when thinking about these imagined futures of the cities. One idea I want to share has to do with brain positive organizations, or rather how we organize brain positivity in cities. And I believe we need to organize it in a sense that we need a rigorous framework for what it means to be brain positive when it comes to organizations, workplaces, especially because workplace is where we spend a good deal of our time. And what we need is to have the right means to look after brain health in a way that Kaiser spoke about earlier. We need for every individual cognitive and behavioral pathways. And we also need the physical space to be able to enhance our cognitive well-being. So this is about brain positive organizations. And one project which cities are particularly well positioned to undertake has to do with prevention. And this is because most cities have the right competences to be in the avant-garde of prevention. This is the future of healthcare. Healthcare which is not focused on the disease as it is right now, but healthcare which is focused on health and well-being. And for that, the cities are in a prime position. There are various ways to do that, from having the right monitoring systems in place, especially neuromonitoring, which is not really being done yet, at least. Prevention needs to enter primary care. And then all the data points need to be properly integrated so as to give everyone a personalized risk reduction program. So if I were to suggest one flagship project for brain positive cities, it would have to do with prevention. And I will end by saying that, well, we're meeting today in Barcelona and around the world, but we will continue this dialogue in New York at the Global Brain Economy Summit, where several of us around the table will be speakers. This is the view from our window at Steelcase, New York. So if you need any further encouragement, this is the most brain positive view of New York City I can think of. And we will have 3 themes on the agenda. So brain positive cities will be very central. David Gao, who will speak shortly here in Barcelona, will launch the Brain Positive Cities Guides. We will have a whole panel on 360-degree brain positivity. And last but not least, Upali Nanda, who is also here, will lead our amazing session on neurospatial design. So please join us there if you can. Thank you so much, Ren.
Thank you, Paweł. Yes, do you hear me? Yes. Thank you, Paweł. I think you gave a very nice overview, which really put everything within the framework of this session. And yes, we have the session at the UNGA in September, where we will continue this discussion and conversations within this brain positive cities. So our next speaker, and please keep your comments to 5 minutes so we can give the possibility to other discussants to give their views. Mara Dierssen, she's the president of the Spanish Brain Council, and also she's a neuroscientist. So please, Mara, to you.
Thank you, Rim. Thank you very much for inviting me for such a timely meeting. And sorry for not being in person. I am in this big fence meeting now. So I wanted to add, because many things have been said about the interaction of the brain with the built spaces, right? And in fact, Winston Churchill said, we shape our buildings and afterwards they shape us. And today we could say, we shape our cities and afterwards they shape our brains, right? So I completely agree with the cities viewed as sensory environments. They're light, noise, density, all of these are continuously processed in our brains. And probably this is something that we also need to link to what Paweł was saying about art, right? And in fact, one of the first let's say, realizing the impact of spaces, or at least speaking it out, was Jonas Salk when he was in Italy, in the Basilica of St. Francis of Assisi. And then he built the Salk Institute as a place where a mixture of art and science would boost scientific creativity, right? So this is very important. The brain is plastic, so it's continuously changing, and it's changing based on experience. So a brain positive city is, of course, as we heard, no, a city that allows really the brain to develop and to be creative, allows brain capital, which is what we are talking about. So, but let me add another element that I think is also important. Brain positive cities must be also inclusive, right? So they have to think about human diversity. And in this sense, I think that we need to think, for example, for older people, right? A city that allows movement. Mobility is brain health for older people, and avoiding loneliness. So social contact are very important for healthy, let's say, aging. So the city must have facilities so that the older adults can keep moving, meeting, participating in public life, and this will help reduce isolation, support independence, and protect cognition, right, and emotional well-being. But think also of people with intellectual disability, for example. The city must be legible, understandable. So orientation should not depend on complex maps, hidden information, etc. I don't know about you, but when I drive in Barcelona, I live outside Barcelona, every time I drive, I feel completely stressed because the city is very poorly legible, right? So this is also very important to give accessible help, right? Then imagine the other way around, autistic people. They need we need to take sensory experience very seriously, right? Many urban spaces are overwhelming. Flashing lights, loud traffic, crowded stations, and autism-friendly urban design needs creating calmer routes, quieter waiting areas, clear visual structure. And this is not only beneficial for autistic people, right? So if we would say, and I have made some little points here. So of course, a city should be green by default. And this is something that has been pointed, the biophilia, right? Because we are humans and humans are built in natural spaces. So Kaisia has given very nice examples of that. It must be probably low stress and sensory intelligence. So we have to reduce all this noise, right? Traffic danger, crowding, and agglomeration has also been mentioned. But also they should be legible, right? Not only for people with intellectual disability, for older people also. We need to think in human diversity. And then, of course, they have to be holding or supporting active mobility, right? The spaces must recover the human let's say, scale, right? Now the commutes are huge and in some cities are almost impossible. So there are several examples that I think are very nice, and let me just mention 3 of them. So the Barcelona superblocks, these are a great example, right? Reducing car dominance inside the city blocks, right? The city can return the space to the pedestrians, trees, benches, cycling, social life. And this model has been associated with reduced deaths. So there are some papers mentioning even 700 less deaths per year. And those are also helping and gathering all these elements, right? The sensory overload, etc. Paris offers another very nice example through the Oasis schoolyards, right? Transforming the asphalt school grounds into greener, cooler spaces that also can serve local communities outside the schools, and, for example, reducing traffic around the schools, right? And Singapore with a biophilic design is also a very nice example that this can also be integrated into dense housing, right? So I think that we really have to bring all these elements on the table to boost brain capital, but also to make the city, this is the concept of neuroarchitecture, right? That we are making a city that helps the students to learn, the people that works to be more creative. I mean, we need to build the environments thinking in what they are supposed to be used for. And I think with this, I end. Thank you.
Thank you.
5 minutes.
You. Perfect. Thank you. Yes. Yes. Thank you, Mara. And also, I would emphasize that we need cities that take into consideration the different population ages going forward, particularly in countries where we are facing demographic pattern changes. And this is also essential for the globe, in fact, because clearly we are facing demographic shifts that we need to start working on at a urban and city level. And this is for me a key, one of the key recommendations that has to come from this group to adapt to the patterns or the demographic patterns where we are. So our next speaker, Marta Sanchez-Brett, she's the director of the WeMind cluster. She's based in Barcelona, and she's with me here in Barcelona. And then I also would like to say that we've been collaborating on the WeMind forum on brain health and brain economy. She has been one of the first really to work with us on brain economy since 4 years now, or more than 4 years. And I'm very happy to have Marta here. Please, to you.
Thank you very much, Rim, and thank you very much, EMEA and the rest of participants here to invite us. So it's when reading about the objectives of the topic for today in this session, we sure put our focus in which are our nature, our role. We are a nonprofit association. We develop competitiveness and talent excellence when developing the best biopsychosocial environment for all those who suffer from central nervous system. So that means that we work on mental health, we work on longevity, we work on neuroscience, and all this lifespan through, we try to provide innovation, but according to competitiveness. So what we first thought about is, okay, what can we add as a value to this session from our perspective? So we do have 4 statements. So brain health is becoming a competitiveness issue. So we really need to think about brain health no longer as a healthcare challenge, but becoming a key driver of productivity, innovation, and talent attraction for economic resilience. And that's why from the early collaboration together here with RIM and EMEA, we thought that brain economy should become part of not only every city, but every region and every country where the competitiveness and the talent of the professionals should take place. So that means that healthy brains build, for sure, healthy economies. And that's our first statement. For the second one, we thought about brain positive cities. We had been developing projects in neuroarchitecture for a couple of years, and we have started working in innovation, not only inside some of geriatric residents, for example, but working as well with urban developments. And what we've seen is that the cities shape the way that we think, that we feel and interact. It has been said and mentioned as well by Kaisa, no? When taking and tackling the cognitive functions, how they interact with the urban design. So for all of those, urban planning, housing, and mobility all influence cognitive and well-being, and we should really put our effort in designing these cities for brain health, as important as designing them for sustainability as well. Here, we think that Barcelona has a unique opportunity to lead this transformation by combining science, innovation, architecture, and public policies. As a recent example, it has been shown, it had been presented publicly, Pacte de Ciutat contra les Soletats 2026-2030. So that's how the whole city aligns on a shared view, on a shared challenges, government, communication, resources, and management, how we do face unwanted loneliness in Barcelona, how this can help all the associations, third sectors, foundations, cluster as well, working with this kind of challenge to align all together and to move forward with a concrete pact and some premises that should be taken into consideration. So brain positive do not happen by chance. We should work all together, and there are here in Barcelona some initiatives on this topic. The third statement, we would like to mention as well that no single organizations can build alone a brain positive city. So this is where our core value as a WeMind ecosystem we work always, which is governments cannot do it alone, universities, companies, or healthcare systems cannot work isolated manner. So we are part of a complex ecosystems, and we know that because we had been working for more than 10 years with social health, care, hospitals, and academia, trying to put together the contribution of the innovation, but not from our cluster itself, connecting all those who are doing that. So we bring together these public providers, these private as well, companies that accelerate solutions to bring real societal impact. And on the fourth statement, we would like to highlight that from our side, we know that single pilots are necessary to growth as a seeds, but we need long-term transformation. So we do have long-term scale-ups, collaborations and projects and companies and startups and ideas that then later on can move to evidence and inform policymakers and to work as well with venture capital to capture this investment with social impact. So this cross-sector partnership are key for us to go for this social impact. So this is a common project as a long-term transformation is a city strategy. So to conclude, not to be more than these 5 minutes, so our premises where we can land these collaboration packs is the recognition of the challenge and the problems all together. Then we need to move from a stigmatizing or paternalistic approach to one that really views not only loneliness, but mental health and societal challenges as a human experience that sometimes could be painful, but also it is creative, it is regenerative and necessary to work. And if we want cities to be more innovative, resilient, and inclusive, we need to start designing them around the most valuable resources that we have, which is people and their brains. That's it.
Thank you, Marta. And I think this also is bringing us the thinking on how we started at the global level. I think we've been bringing brain health into the global economic policy thinking with what Paweł mentioned to us. And now we really would like to land it into the cities, and the role of innovation and clusters is so important. And I think when we started working with WeMind, and actually we are also a member of WeMind, this also allows us really to connect different stakeholders group and try really to move the thinking from just one research idea, which we had, we are researchers and we are scientists, to really implement it on the ground. And I think, as Kaisa mentioned, Barcelona is a city where we could claim that this is a brain positive city. Of course, many things have to be improved over time. And this is also one case, and we would like to see many cases to avoid the risk to have certain cities, because one lives in a city, but then this is also declining brain health. So we would like to live in cities where our brains are flourishing, rather than because simply you are born in a city and then you are simply having your brain declining because of that specific choice. So the role of clusters and innovation is essential. And the role that you're making there within the region Catalonia, but this should be enlarged to other regions in collaboration, of course, of the national authorities and different other regions and so on. Our next speaker is Carme Gual. Currently, she's the general manager of La Farga Gemsa. So this is a public sector entity on equipment. So you see an infrastructure. And now, you see, your role is so important because you represent a public sector entity, and we need to move this thinking that we are trying to, maybe you have already thought about it, brain health, it's something that you already thought about it in terms of, for example, the walking spaces, the transportations and all of that. So how do you see all of this debate, and how can you accelerate it going forward?
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. I'm really excited to be here today, and thanks the organizer for inviting me. I would say that I have a hybrid profile because I worked for the Barcelona City Council for more than 25 years. Then I was in cooperation for development, and later on I am a member of the board of the Ateneu Barcelonès, which is a very known cultural institution in Barcelona. So in this kind of culture and debate are very important just to have a healthy brain. So I have this kind of mixture, and I come more from a practitioner point of view. I love to hear all of you, but I'm more of my experience, of my what I felt during those years. And also as a citizen, because here there's no citizen except that we are all citizens. So maybe I think this is the experience that I can share with you. So cities shape our brains, our stress levels, memory, creativity, has been talked before. So every street, park, bus stop, library, or public square is, whether intentionally or not, that's the problem that you run. It's not been done always intentionally, has a brain intervention. So if we want cities that are engines of well-being, and a connection and also innovation, we can leave that to chance, that things happen and we don't know why, no? So we need to design for it. And I will give you just some examples, because I think it's nice, because the evolution of the conversation, now I'm going to give you some examples from Barcelona, that's the most that I know. So first, redesigning the physical city around the brain, human beings, in fact, not just cars and logistics. So chronic noise, pollution, traffic measurably degrade cognition and mood, we know that. So Barcelona superblocks, for instance, if you know, reclaim the streets from cars to create quiet, green, walkable cells with less noise, more space for spontaneous encounter. If you walk Consell de Cent, you will feel that. We could say that is urban nudging, so using Thaler and Sunstein's behavioral economies concept at city scale. Barcelona's superblocks didn't start as a permanent concrete transformation. Many of them began as tactical urbanism, painting asphalt, planters, temporary furniture, cheap, reversible, not just that change how people move through those streets before the city committed to rebuild that. The nudge came first, then the neuroarchitecture should come later. It happened without an explicit thought, really, but with caring civil servants thinking on resilience and citizens put on the first place. But we must be careful, because the same toolkit can be reducing, helping inequality. So it's a very difficult, tricky thing to use. But it's not just intuition, because the sociologist Monica Degen from the Brunel University of London built her landmark book, Sensing Cities, around Barcelona itself, showing how urban regeneration succeeds through sensory experience, sound, rhythm, smell, not just the visual design. Her later work with Gillian Rose studied how walking through redesigned space shapes perceptual memory. So superblocks aren't just nice, there's 2 decades of embodied research explaining why they work. If Degen studies how people sense the city, there's an organization called Teatro de los Sentidos that trains sensing itself. It's a sensory theater that's in Barcelona for 30 years and use these techniques of training perception and memory physically. So in Pla de Barris, that's a very known project in Barcelona in different neighborhoods for social, economic interventions. And they use memory recovery. They made this kind of memory recovery directly by walking, storytelling, intergenerational exchange, and as a municipal strategy. Second, social connections as infrastructures. So loneliness is not simply a social issue. It's a risk factor for cognitive decline and poor brain health. So there's a project in Barcelona, it's quite old already. It's called Radars program that demonstrate that protecting brain health sometimes requires no concrete or technology, only connection. So it's a way of connecting shopkeepers, local services, and neighbors to detect which are the lonely people around the neighborhood and help them if they need that. Third, make lifelong learning and culture a public utility. Here is where comes my cultural aspect. So public libraries, civic centers, or the network Ateneus, like the Ateneu Barcelonès, are open to anyone who wants to keep thinking and creating. So the historic prototype of the accessible third places for the mind that brain positive cities need more of. We could say that they are maintenance infrastructure for a human brain. Fourth, design the city around care, not just movement. Cities built around commuting and productivity have pushed the work of care to the margins. So design is not neutral. There's a very known company called Collectiu.6 that they developed for 20 years already, feminist urbanism, caring city that puts everyday care needs at the center of design, gender-based security audits of metro stations, participatory night walks, redesign playgrounds and public toilets as care infrastructure. So proximity, safety, and shared care reduce the chronic vigilance. So we are always just, and the isolation. And let me just highlight a private company foundation that's Fundació Ferrer, that they have a project that's called Green for Good. They are deploying urban social gardens, combining regenerative agriculture with social inclusion, training people at risk of exclusion on creating sensitive spaces. And then they have also a space in São Paulo, precisely, it's called Cálida, that's supporting cancer patients. So one intervention, ecological and brain positive at once. And now think about how the weather is going to change the way we walk the city. So it's going to be hard. And just finishing, I'm sorry. Build the governance to connect it all. That's the importance of the governance. It's been already just said. None of this survives on a goodwill. So it needs dedicated governance, indicators, financing to move from scattered pilots to deliberate strategy. So accountability about the objectives and the results is mandatory. Holistic approach is needed. Public-private cooperation compulsory. Barcelona already has the raw ingredients and many things have been done already. And we have, for instance, the Resilient Hub that's here also again in São Paulo, that they have been working for many years on this kind of resilience. And they also have the social resilience in its core statement. So using mission-oriented innovation principles, Mariana Mazzucato, may help us to clarify and perfect this holistic approach. I know that Barcelona City Council has just made an agreement with Mariana Mazzucato and also the Fundación Innova. I think that this is the idea. You have a mission, and the mission is the well-being. So let's go, and everyone is involved. So we will find a way to work together. That's it. And thank you very much.
Thank you very much. This is already giving us clear initiative, and this also shows that Barcelona within Catalonia is very advanced in this thinking of a brain health and with the clear initiative. So our next discussant, I have them on screen. So please, if you give us your experiences, I start with Pasquale da Pice. Pasquale, he is an economic analyst working for the Committee of the Region at the European Commission, and we had the chance to discuss how the regions can adopt this thinking of brain health. And I know this takes, more time, but clearly, what is your view about what you heard and how this can be mainstreamed into the work you're doing and how all of this will develop a new notion of brain positive cities?
Yeah, thank you very much, Rim, for the invitation, and thanks to EMEA and the Global Brain Economy Initiative and all partners for organizing this timely discussion. I would like to take this chance to explore 3 points that have been touched upon today and resonate with what we are doing from a European place-based perspective at the Directorate General for Regional and Urban Affairs of the European Commission. So first of all, I would like to stress that this debate today is highly relevant to the new EU agenda for cities and the wider urban agenda for the EU. As it has been mentioned, some of Europe's major transitions will ultimately succeed or even fail in cities and neighborhoods. I think that the recent heat waves make these very tangible. Several studies show that hot days reduce worker productivity and affect learning and test performance in schools. Therefore, as it has been mentioned very well today, climate-responsive urban design are becoming not only a public health issue, but also a human capital and productivity imperative. So shaded streets, greener schoolyards, cooler classrooms, energy-efficient buildings, and I would say better public spaces in general are not only environmental investments. They are investments in learning, work capacity, and well-being. The second very important point that was raised today, I think it relates very much to the new European Bauhaus, which is an initiative strongly supported by President von der Leyen. This is particularly relevant today as we meet in Barcelona, UNESCO World Capital of Architecture for this year, and one of my favorite cities. And to be honest, what better place to remind ourselves that cities can and must be beautiful and also inclusive and rooted in people's lived experience. Of course, there's always room for development, but there's no doubt that Barcelona stands out as a reference for many other cities in the world. So today's discussion on brain positive architecture reminds us that homes, schools, workplaces, and public spaces should not only function efficiently, but also reduce stress, encourage social interaction, support attention spans, and in general stimulate creativity. And I would also add that it is in this context that arts and culture are not seen as decorative additions, and this is key to the New Bauhaus initiative. They shape identity, belonging, well-being, and the capacity of communities to really imagine their own future. And the third and final point is that I think that the march towards brain-positive cities, which will be a very long march, must begin early on, as this is recognized by countless peer-reviewed medical and scientific articles, and it is in some way also reflected in the policy framework of the child guarantee in the context of the European Union. Like recent OECD and World Bank reports on human capital reminds us that urban inequalities are multidimensional, but also cumulative and spatially concentrated. This means that these advantages, for instance, in income, in health, in education, or even in access to services, often overlap in the same neighborhoods and reinforce each other. And this is why I think that brain-positive cities must take this into account by developing a very targeted intervention for specific neighborhoods, as well as more cross-cutting horizontal policies. So to conclude, I think there are at least two areas where today's discussion could usefully connect our future work. First is by informing our technical dialogues with cities. The European Commission has dialogues with cities in the context of the cities agenda, where research can be translated into practical design principles, into specific performance indicators, peer learning, and also pilot schemes and approaches. And second, by encouraging further reflection on data and analysis. This is an area where I'm more personally involved, and DigiRegio already works with Eurostat to produce very good city-specific surveys of subjective measures of well-being. And we also draw on granular geospatial data on land use provided by Copernicus to better understand the geography of cities and neighborhoods. Some of these indicators are already relevant to today's discussions, whereas others may require further development if we want to better capture the brain-positive dimension of urban and city policy. So thank you again to Rim and to Harris and to Paweł for the opportunity to contribute today. And I hope that this discussion can help to build a stronger bridge between research, city practice, and European policy. And I look forward to continuing the conversation.
Thank you, Pasquale, and also to re-emphasizing the importance of measurement. I'm very happy that you're doing this survey, so we could, in the future, use it for our brain capital index, particularly for cities. And if we have this data at European Union level, that would be fantastic. So then we can start already monitoring the what we call of brain positive cities. Our next discussant is Patrick McNamara. So we're going now across the Atlantic and see other cities' experiences in Florida. He's the president and CEO of Palm Health Foundation. Thank you for being with us, Patrick. And we had the chance to meet Houston. So please, to you, what do you think about this, and what the practices of Florida could give us as input to our discussion on brain positive cities?
Pleasure to be here, Rem. Thanks so much for the invitation. And I look forward to actually visiting Barcelona for the first time in November. Be able to see all the wonderful things that you were speaking of. We do not have the history and the depth of culture that you guys have in South Florida. We are relatively new comparatively. But a couple of the points really stand out to me in what we're trying to accomplish in Palm Beach County and South Florida in general, in ushering in the brain coast is what we refer to it. And the points were excellent, particularly prevention that Paweł was speaking about. That's a major issue in the US in terms of turning around a huge shift in our healthcare system. And our foundation speaks a lot about health being more than healthcare. And that has everything to do with going upstream and prevention. And so much of our activities are devoted towards aligning our systems, individuals, organizations, to point them towards promoting brain health across the lifespan. And to do that, we know that we need to be a catalytic agent that continues to coordinate and keeps that as a North Star. And it's going to take time, but we have some significant traction already happening. The second is I love the term used in designing for care. And so really beginning to influence the design principles locally for facilitating these things is one of the things that we can be doing and have already started to do. And the third that I would bring up that we see as crucially important is the idea of civic neuroscience and what the community and the folks that we are trying to serve, their participation and agency in these creative solutions that we're seeking over time is something that is truly important. I think it often gets overlooked. We are actively building a brain health network locally, working with residents in different parts of Palm Beach County, and having their active participation and tight feedback loops in moving towards the future that we want to shape together is an essential component of getting to brain positive cities. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Patrick, for keeping it very sharp, and we will continue working together on fostering those experiences within the brain positive cities. So our last discussant is Jokubas Ziburukus. He's co-director of MIND of the University of Houston. I had the chance to meet Jokubas, and he has very interesting, I would say, research versus innovation to share with us at the city level. So please to you.
Thank you very much, Rim, for inviting. Thank you for organizing this conference. It's great to be here with everyone. A little bit about myself. I'm a co-director of UH MIND. UH stands for University of Houston. MIND stands for Multidisciplinary Institute for Neuroscience and Dementia. U of H is one of the major urban universities in this country. We have about 50,000 students on the main campus. We have over 5,000 students that live on the campus, which represents a little city on its own within the city. And UH MIND is built really to foster neuroscience research, dementia research across varied disciplines that we have at the University of Houston. Now, what I wanted to talk about is two things today. First of all, is we think about the cities, and we haven't even mentioned really the technologies. We're thinking about creating and building new spaces and improving what is already there. And what I have been thinking about the last 3 years is the cognitive map of the city. How does the city look like? And our cognitive maps are brutally visual. We do not really take into consideration other maps, and we do not create other maps of the city. And one of the things that we've been working with my students is also researchers, creating what we call multi-sensory maps of the city. And that's where technology can become very useful, because there are technological tools that can, for example, help us in constructing the pathways, the walking pathways. There was a heat problem. There's a heat problem in the room. And we all know the sol lunar, the changes of the sun and the moon. And we know the architecture of the cities. And it's actually fairly easy then to build these dynamic maps that are shady walking maps that reduces the temperature, that reduces and improves the well-being of that individual. And this is just one example. But what we're doing is really creating the map of the sound, of the smell, and that is something that hasn't been mentioned and it's been overlooked. And we know from neuroscience research that forest bathing and the fact that the smells can even promote anti-inflammatory activity in the brain. And that is something that we're creating from a prototype where we're doing it by hand in 2 dimensions to a very small application that we built out that allows anybody anywhere in the world to create a GPS-anchored multisensory map. It's at the level of the prototype right now, and it's been inspired by the smell maps by Dr. Pete McLean from Kent University originally. But we've expanded it into multisensory maps, and I would encourage the group to start thinking about the future of the cartography. The future of the mapping is not spatial. The future of the mapping is sensory. And whether it is environmental sensors, chemical sensors, or just human environment sensors that are perceived and created into multidimensional cognitive maps that are multisensory maps that will affect the behavior, that will affect the architecture. The other point I would like to contribute to this discussion is that we have learned a lot about the brain in the last 3 decades in particular. We have learned a lot about the connectivity, about how neurons communicate with each other, but most importantly, we learned about the learning rules by which the brain learns itself. And what we can do is we can actually start adapting some of these rules that we've learned and implementing them. And what I say rules, what are the rules? Traffic was a big point in Dr. Kais's presentation with that several times. How do we deal with that? Right now, the traffic in the cities is controlled by what I call the rate code in the brain. The rate code in the brain is a certain frequency, encodes a certain information. And the rate code in traffic lights is the traffic lights are in a certain mode during high traffic times, and in another mode when low lights. Imagine having a smart traffic light that knows how many cars are in line, when it should switch, and how it should inform the other light down the street. This is just a very simple example, but this is an example that speaks to learning paradigm in the brain called spike timing dependent plasticity. Plasticity and adaptability is very important. And if you follow the rate code, it's not as plastic as the spike timing dependent plasticity code. So can we take some of these concepts that we learned in neuroscience and actually apply it back into the functioning of the city, making the cities more plastic, so it also provides cognitive plasticity and adaptability and resilience. Those are the 2 major points I wanted to contribute.
Thank you, Jokobas, for sharing this experience. And I am sure there will be other opportunities to try to learn further on the results of this experiment and then eventually also replicate it in other countries who are interested to do similar things. And this is the first opportunity that we hear about this. And then you will be connected to our network so we could see how we can upscale this thinking and trying really to connect with some university here in Barcelona. And I have Marta here who is taking notes and checking your center. So most probably she will invite you to the We Mind Forum. And I think this is also to foster ecosystems beyond the city. So really these collaborations between cities is so essential to cross-fertilize, the thinking and trying really to not only to learn from each other, but also to co-develop things together to go faster, because in fact, all this thinking of brain economy it should have happened already many years ago. So, and I think we need to accelerate it. So thank you very much for the speakers and discussants of this session.